But Justin, we're going to be talking tonight about sales and improving our sales, giving us some tools and tips and ideas to really kind of increase our sales and such. And this is a big area. A lot of people are going to be jumping in who are kind of novice, some that are more experienced. So let's try to give them some things to make them a little more effective in 2016.
Yeah, I want to bring sales and marketing together into this one. So we're going to cover a little bit of a lot of things, and it should be kind of neat here. So let me see if I can get the screen shared here with y'all.
Yeah.
And you'll have to tell me if it's live.
There we are. Perfect. It looks great.
All right. So topic, how to build a sales machine, which I really like and will emphasize machine. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. But it's mainly because I don't like doing the same thing over and over, and I like to automate things a little bit. So
well said. I agree 100%.
Now, a lot of people have seen, these sales stats, which I saw this particular one's made up, but the point is still the same. So, 48% of people never follow up with the prospect. And then all the way on down to 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th sales contact. John, you ever call people 5 to 10 times?
No, I don't think I can say I have ever done that much, especially when it comes to the calling.
I can't say I fault you, but there are ways to actually do it without having to pick up the phone that many times and without being annoying, which is what people are usually worried about, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and that's why people usually don't follow up. So in addition to sales trainer extraordinaire or whatever the title you made up for me was, so just some background of the industry. I actually started DJing in 1996. I was 14 years old and did my own junior high dances at that point because I thought I could do better than the guy that was there.
I think that's how we all started.
And thankfully, enough people agreed. But now we're in Illinois here. We run a full-time office. I have 2 full-time staffs, 20 part-time, depends on the time of the year.
Right.
Most of my time is actually spent consulting, though. I only try and work in the DJ business on Mondays to kind of fix what's broken and implement new ideas. So that's kind of how I'm going to share today, is from a coaching perspective, how you can fix your own business. And it doesn't matter if you're the only person in your business. That's fine, too. It all works the same. Mm-hmm. And maybe you want to grow at some point to where you're not the only person in your business. And this way you have the groundwork laid. But I've authored some books on there. Profit 911 actually came from the first consulting book I wrote. My business now is called Profit 911 Consulting. So moving on, enough about me. I'm going to try and give a lot of, meat and potatoes. If
that's what we're after. Yeah.
All right. So the bottom line is most of these things I discovered the hard way by bringing things from outside of the DJ world into my company. And when you do that, not everything's a perfect fit. Which equals sometimes embarrassment, but most of the time it equals wasted time and wasted money. So, frankly, I've probably wasted, at this point, $50,000 to $100,000 in marketing and sales experiments. But I'm fine with that because enough worked as well. Sure. So I'm going to kind of shortcut. We'll skip by all the stuff that didn't work and give you all things that I know work and can work well in pretty much any business. So it doesn't matter if you're a one-man show or you have 10 staff members helping you out. The same basic principles apply. Mm-hmm. So here's the big 3. This is what I want to cover. So the big 3 secrets to building the perfect sales machine. And by the way, it's never quite perfect. It's always a work in process. But if you get the big 3 down, you're 80% of the way there. And if you're okay with it not being perfect, you're done.
There you go.
Which sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So step number 1, make the plan. And we'll go over these in detail, obviously. Step number 2, using a multimedia attack. Step number 3, automating for consistency. Fair enough?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. So secret number 1, make the plan. If you've studied any sales and marketing, you might have heard that people buy when they want to buy. Yeah. In other words, they buy for their reasons and not yours. So if your mortgage payment's due or you want to make $1,000 to buy a new controller or something like that, that's not a reason that a customer is going to book you and give you money. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that we're there when they want to buy. And sometimes that can be a long time in coming. So right now, we're sitting in the beginning of February. We just wrapped up a bunch of bridal shows in my neck of the woods, and I assume it's the same elsewhere.
Pretty much, yeah, bet.
A lot of people getting engaged over the new year, so the bridal show producers put shows in January, which works great. The problem is we hear a lot of times at that show, I'm not getting married for another 1 to 2 years. And what's going to happen is most of the vendors there are going to maybe call, maybe send a couple emails. Most are probably going to email, honestly. Maybe send a postcard or something. And they're going to do that all within like the next 4 to 6 weeks, say. Some of them a lot quicker. And then they're going to give up. And that is where the real opportunity is. So if I'm describing you right now, we attend shows, we spend money, or we get a lead a different way, and we spend some time and effort into it, and then they just kind of disappear. We call that kind of falling through the holes of the bucket. They're kind of gone. That's where usually I can help people the most to grow their business, is when they're losing people that way over time. So
I noticed, Justin, that you start out with making a plan. Now, how would that fit into goals, or is that something you talk about, having some goals? Because you almost started out talking a little bit about goals, but where does that fit in?
Okay, so you have to have a plan to get anywhere close to a goal. But let's say the goal is to hit $100,000 in sales this year for our DJ business. Okay, first off, it's highly, highly doubtful in this industry you're going to do that without any sort of detailed plan. And the plan needs to tell you, how many events you want to get, how you're going to do it, but it also allows you to know how much money you can spend. And that's really key when we start talking about marketing and sales. How much can I spend to get the customer? And most people don't think that at all. But the bottom line is, if we spend more, we got a better chance of getting them, but we can't blindly go spending our money. That'll get you out of business pretty quick, or get your spouse upset with you.
Not that would ever happen, but I think you make a good point. Is if without that plan, really that goal is a wish that's never going to become fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time, right?
Exactly.
We've heard that, and absolutely true. On the converse side, you shoot for the stars and land on the moon, right? You set a big goal, you're gonna make progress towards it. Even if you don't hit it, you're gonna be a lot further than you were before that. As an aside, in our world here in event world, that could be shooting out an expensive quote for a large event.
Yes,
way outside of our comfort zone, right? Maybe it's a $10,000 quote for different services. And we do quotes of that size in our company, and they don't all come back, right? But that might open the client's eyes to spend, say, $5,000 to $7,000 that they never would have before had they not known or had we not tried. So
sure,
that's totally an aside. I guess there's another bonus sales strategy for you is give them something more, and then all of a sudden less seems a lot more reasonable. But the bottom line is you have to decide whether or not you're willing to spend the time to make this plan to start. And I'll give you some of the elements of the plan. That's what's coming next. So don't worry, I'm not just completely abstract here. We'll give you some nuts and bolts of it. So secret number 2, a multimedia attack. Here's what I mean is you see the very first icon there is the Facebook icon. And this is where most people live right now. Most vendors are living is it's their number one lead source. Is referrals, commenting on boards in our area, and I'm sure in others there's like wedding swap boards or local wedding boards, and someone hops on there, hey, I need a suggestion for a DJ. Well, what immediately happens on that, John? Have you seen it?
You have all of the little, I'm the best DJ in the area. I've been DJing for 6.5 months, and I can do it for $150.
And there, is a large number of those, right? All of a sudden there's 30 responses. So Facebook is valid, and there are ways to do it, but it's also where most of your competition is. So it's actually one of the methods I like the least. I use it, and I want to use as many media as possible and profitable. But please don't limit yourself to it. There's so much more you can do, and there's so much more than I have listed here. So the second one is email, probably because it's the second easiest. People like to just send out mass emails. I'm a huge fan of email when done right.
Well said.
When I say done right, I mean, first off, obeying requests for email. In other words, we don't randomly email people here. If they don't want to get our email, we certainly don't want to send it. That's what that little spam button's for, if anyone's ever wondered. And that really hurts you if you're on the sending side of that.
Very much, yes.
But it's also the cheapest way to follow up. And it can be done long-term without any labor. So huge fan of that. And in secret number 3, I'll explain a little more about that. Third one, snail mail. Not a lot of people doing this because it's going to be one of the most expensive of the ones listed on this screen. So sending letters or postcards.
That surprised me that you have that. So in essence, the third thing on the layout here.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of my most profitable ones, and here's why: nobody's doing it.
Good
so
point.
I'm going to speak specific to weddings for most of this example, but it works for everything. So if someone goes to a bridal show or just hops online and starts looking for DJs, they're going to get their inbox flooded, right? Mm-hmm. They might get some Facebook messages. How many letters do you think they're going to get in the mail over the course of the next 3 months from a DJ?
Oh, goodness gracious. If they get 2, I'd be very surprised in this day and age. I don't think it happens.
Absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
But you know what? People like getting mail. And you get a second with them, which you might not get online. Deleting an email is pretty quick. It actually takes a little bit of time and effort to open an envelope to see what's in it and then throw it away. So you get a little more face time, even if it's bad.
Yeah, good point.
But it's showing up where other people aren't is the biggest point with it. And we do postcards and we do all kinds of different mailers. Postcards are pretty cheap, though. Here in the U.S., I don't even know what the rate is. I think it's probably around like 30 cents a piece. This is how little I pay attention. I just pay attention to whether the whole campaign's profitable or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's for those who don't send postcards. They are less expensive than the first class. And there's systems now, even through the post office or one of their programs, where you can basically upload your stuff, pay, and you're done. And it's all gone.
So there's a couple ways of doing it. The low tech way and the way we started was, we create a file on our computer and by the way, a single sheet of paper split into 4 is postcards. That's 4 postcards. So we would do that. We'd create a publisher or a Word document and we'd go to Office Max or Staples. We'd have them print them on cardstock in black and white, and they'll even cut the stack of them. Then we'd put stamps on. That's the lowest tech way to do it. But if you're starting, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Then on the high-tech side, like you said, there's online services, a couple that are actually tied directly with the U.S. Postal Service, where you can upload and create and design. The only other thing I want to say about mail, though, is that the one trick I can give you is to try not to make it look too slick. And this is counterintuitive and something I'm going to give more examples of at the Mobile Beat convention, actually. And people will be shocked when you see the actual results, but we've tested on some of the ads, and this is for weddings where we think fancy, right? We think bridal magazines, we think, image. But when we send black and white cards sometimes, and they outperform glossy color ones in certain instances. And the reason why is the glossy color one looks like a large mailing that wasn't meant for that person necessarily. They think you sent thousands and thousands of them, which you might have, but the black and white one looks like you might have actually spent personal attention to get it to them.
Yep.
Which is really a psychological thing that most people don't think about. Number 4 on there is everyone's least favorite, I believe, and that's the telephone. It still works. And it works very well, actually, because once again, people aren't doing it. I just had this conversation with a guy we use for sales sometimes when we need sales help, who actually runs an outbound call center. His main business is an outbound call center, which is a totally different business and quite interesting to walk into as an outsider. I think he has like 20 reps on the phone all day or something. But the outbound calls, no one does.
Yes.
And the discussion we had was what time of day to call. Okay, so everyone always wants what's the best, right?
Yep.
Well, first off, any call is better than no call. But I was telling him that we're having a lot of luck calling brides during the day. And he's like, no, that's crazy. You got to call them at night when they're home. And I'm like, well, I believe they're at work. Some of them tell us to go away. They're at work, and that's fine. But most of them are not self-employed like you and I. And they're planning their weddings at work, people.
Yeah, they are.
So they're on the internet, and as long as the boss and coworkers aren't around, they're happy to talk to you on the phone during the day too. And that's between themselves and their boss. I'm happy to talk to them about their wedding anytime they want. So we do outbound calling, obviously respecting people's wishes, just like email. If someone doesn't want to hear from us, we don't want to call them, right?
For sure.
And we also want to make it fairly easy for them to say no to us, because I don't want to have to call them back if they're not interested. And people have a huge problem saying no. And you'll learn that really quick if you start doing some outbound calls. They'd rather hang up before they say no. But anyone that's working sales knows we would love to hear no, because we will just move on to the next person.
And yes, it's those lukewarm, well, we'll think about it, we'll do this, and those are the ones that just kill you.
Yep, and that's the ones you got to have the system for, right? We got to know, what are we going to do with these people that say maybe, right, or go away. So that's why we have to plot this out. What's the next step? How long are we going to follow up with them? Are we going to call them in 2 weeks, or are we going to call them in 2 months? Or are we going to get complicated and ask them when to call them back? That's another thing we do sometimes.
Oh, yes.
By the way, if they say 2 months, we usually call them in a month and a half or so. Because usually it is moved up and they give you a little longer time frame than you really want to wait.
Yep.
And then the final one, SMS, text messaging. I believe probably very few people using it. Once again, we have laws and rules, so I'm just going to assume everyone's going to play by those. Because unsolicited text messages are super annoying.
They are.
But if someone has given you their cell phone number for follow-up, that's a different story. Now, all of a sudden, you're a welcomed guest. It's something they want to get. And the stat I just saw last week actually was 95% of text messages are opened and read within 5 minutes, which is crazy. We can't get 95% of people to answer the phone. We can't get 95% of people to
do anything.
We can't even get the postal service to deliver 95% of the letters. Okay, if you start doing mailings, you're going to learn this really quick. We get returned mail from 4 months ago regularly.
Yes.
And who knows where else. You'll see stories on the news of just warehouses full of mail that the post office decided they didn't want to deliver. So
exactly. And there's a lot of copies of the Disc Jockey News out there for those of you wondering that you didn't get. They did go out.
Yep, absolutely. It happens all the time. And email, no way we're getting 95%.
No.
Absolutely no way. There's not that many going to get delivered even, but beyond that, some are going to go to spam. If you're using Gmail, you might become familiar with that promotions tab. I have people ask me all the time, how can I get my email to skip the promotions tab and go to the inbox?
Yeah.
And my first response to them is, what are you sending?
Yeah, very much so.
I'm sending a promotion. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Gmail's doing its job. As a user of Gmail, I want it to sort there. And some people check that tab. Actually, I think most people do occasionally. So the only tip I have is there is one little trick to do that, and that's to send a basic, simple text-only email that looks like it came from a friend or something. But if you're going to say free this, free that, sale, the computers are smart. They can figure that out. But don't let that stop you. By all means, use it. Mm-hmm. So text messaging is a good way, and most people are kind of shy on the phone. Text messaging, they aren't. They'll tell you no. They'll tell you to go away. And
very quickly, yep.
The next one. And by the way, you can automate that as well, which brings me to secret number 3, automate for consistency. And if you happen to pick up my book or anything, you're going to find out really quick I'm a huge fan of automation. And picture number 1 shows you why. I'm a little bit lazy, okay? I get really interested in something for a very short period of time, mm-hmm. which actually works well if you do it right. It means you have to get really interested and set up a system that's going to continue to run after you're bored. So most people kind of run around and chase their tails, and I do one thing, then I do something else, and maybe I send a postcard this month. Next month I'm going to do some phone calls, and it's just completely random. And that'll get you some results. It'll get you better than nothing. But long-term, that's not what's going to grow a solid, stable business for you. It kind of puts you on the cash flow roller coaster, if you will. I absolutely guarantee everybody in the DJ world has been on this or will be on it, including myself, by the way.
Yep.
It's like 1 month, we're doing awesome. There's tons of money in the bank. Second month, how are we going to pay the bills?
Yep.
If you get a ton of employees, by the way, that is, how are we going to hit the payroll? Every business owner has that, not just DJs, by the way. So don't feel bad. So I'm a little bit lazy. So I try and use technology, and I try and use systems. I'm a huge fan of efficiency, and I'll try anything. I actually tried inbound calls going to a virtual assistant in the Philippines for a while, even. Which I'm in Illinois, and I'm okay with it. And actually, the gal I had over there spoke perfect English, but you could tell she had an accent, right?
Right.
but you couldn't tell like accent beyond being a U.S. citizen or not. And I was listening to some of the recorded calls and just realized how backwards most of the people calling were, and they couldn't deal with that, you know.
Yeah.
So we stopped that experiment. That was one of the many experiments. That's not to say I won't revisit it in the future again, or hire a U.S.-based assistant. Actually, right now I have an assistant in-house. But if you're starting, it might be something to try, because it's much cheaper than having an employee in-house.
For sure.
So second picture there is like the money machine, if you will. What's behind the curtain of money? And that's technology. So prior to this call, if I can share, we were talking about one of the technologies that's out there for customer relationship management, CRM, and that's Infusionsoft, which is quite honestly not appropriate for most DJs, but some it is. Kind of the guidelines I give people. I have two softwares I recommend for people to start out. So if their business is doing under $100,000 in revenue a year, I recommend they use a service called Aweber to do email marketing. And that's all it does, by the way, is email marketing.
Yep.
And I think it's like $20 a month or something. But it's a very solid program that will get emails delivered. Also, what it will do is it will allow you to schedule. And that's kind of the third part there. You see the clock and the checklist. It'll allow you to schedule things so they always happen when they're supposed to happen. So, for instance, we have a sequence basically where if someone wants a quote, they get an email right away, they get a follow-up 2 days after that, they get another follow-up 10 days after that.
Right.
At that point, we actually move them into a long-term sequence. So remember we said that not everyone's ready to book right now. Some people are having their weddings next year. So we move them into a long-term wedding tips sequence. So every week we send them another email just with wedding tips. This is not a sales pitch, by the way. They won't read your emails if you're trying to sell them something all the time.
Yes, for sure.
But it will put us in front of them, which is kind of the key. So we have a year-long worth of weekly wedding tips. And I don't have to write those in every week. I write them once and they're done forever. So this is what I mean by automate. It allows it so every person that comes in gets to see the same thing. And it works, and I don't have to pay anyone. It's technology. It keeps going. So if you're wondering, the other system, by the way, if you're over 100,000, I recommend you start looking at either Infusionsoft or one of their competitors. I use Infusionsoft, and it puts you in a different class of a software that, you know, we have all kinds of things tied into our Infusionsoft. So it does the email. It does scheduling for staff members and appointments. It will manage your sales process, and it's called Sales Pipeline. It will take orders online and process credit card payments. We have ours linked into where it will send customized greeting cards and brownies via send out cards or one of their competitors.
Right.
You can have it send out text messages with a plugin. It's not native to it. Literally, the sky's the limit for things like that. But consistency and laziness are the reasons we do this. So software, get the plan. You know, and by the way, if you want a very basic plan, if we're just getting started here, say you don't have anything in place right now. Yes, start with your Facebook stuff, but you want to drive them somewhere online. So in a moment, you're actually going to see an example. So if you want to see, I practice what I preach here, and I'll share you so you can go behind the scenes and kind of see how I use it. And it's a very basic approach, but please don't go to my DJ website and put quotes in, because you will get follow-up from people in addition to automated. We practice what we preach. So you probably would get mail, you would get a phone call every now and then, and you would get email. But I would start with just having an inquiry form on your website. And if you don't know how to do that, one of these programs I'm talking about makes it really simple. So Aweber, for instance, you can go in there and you create what's called, I think they call it a web form. Everyone has a little bit different terminology. The sign-up form, web form. And put that on your website. Say, would you like more information, or would you like a quote? You know, fill this out. And then you can set up something automated to follow up with them. I recommend you also call them, because most people won't again. But if you just get that in there, you're ahead of, I'd say 60 or 70% of the people out there. Most of them put up a website that's pretty much it. It's like It's like a brochure.
Yep.
So, you know, here's my prices, here's what I do, and that's it.
Yeah. Exactly. If you're interested enough to come forward and buy from me, great. If not, well, I didn't spend much time on it anyway.
Which, by the way, if that's your plan and it's working for you, that's great. But there's so much more potential beyond that you're missing.
Yep.
So I love helping people in businesses like that, where you're actually doing pretty good, but you have none of this in place, because you can double or triple your business really quickly just by putting it in place. So here's like the bottom line when you do email right. Here's an email we got, and I realize it's going to be like really tiny, so I'll read it, and it's short. So it says, "Hello, Justin. We actually called your place about a half a year ago requesting information on your services for a wedding. My fiance and I set our wedding date for June 10, 2016 at blah, blah, blah. We're wondering if we could hire you for your services if you're available. If yes, that would be wonderful. Please email me back at your earliest convenience. Thank you, Gabriel." So here's the thing. Gabriel says that they called a half year ago.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In my software, I can see that's not the case. They actually went onto our website, and it was actually 9 or 10 months ago.
Okay, interesting.
And they filled out a form requesting pricing. So, by the way, he saw the pricing back then. And then we did exactly what I just said to do. So we emailed them at like 3 days and 10 days, and then we put them in a weekly wedding tips. And that's what he's responding to. This was a reply email. He's responding to just a random wedding tip about something. I don't even know which one it was. I could look it up, but
sure.
And he's ready to book. And I didn't do anything. You know, we probably called him once in that first week, and maybe another time after that. And I don't have the notes in front of me, but he likely said, "Hey, we're not looking yet." But he's back then. Now, how many other DJs do you think 9 months after a simple online web form was filled out are still following up? It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, no, that's not. No,
I don't think any in my market. Now, if there's like other students of mine, they might be doing it.
Yeah, precisely. Someone who's really on their game.
But there is money in this. It's these people like this.
Yeah.
Later down the game, because I'm the only competitor now, unless he goes and searches again. But the bottom line is he liked what he saw initially. He wasn't ready to move, and I didn't give him a reason to go searching. I was right there.
Yeah.
Now, if I didn't do this, he might not remember who I was. Even if he did, he's probably going to go back on Google and have to find me, and he might find my competition as well. So you'll note there's no negotiation on price here. There's not, "Hey, can you do
for
this
sure.
Can you do this for free? Because there's 400 guests."
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we spent all of our money on getting these extra flashy shoulder pads on our tuxes.
Yeah, it'll be excellent exposure for you, right? So that's the system in a nutshell. So we a really high level overview of a lot more detailed stuff. But I do have more detailed things available for you. We're limited on time on this broadcast, right?
Yep. We're going to have to wrap it up here a little bit. We might have to come back and visit some of our topics a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, so here's what I've set up. First off, there's a website to go to, and don't put it in the same window you're watching this on because you'll disappear. So open up a new tab or a window real quick. All it's going to ask is your first name and email, but it's profit911.biz/DJN, Disc Jockey News, DJN. And if you go in there, you type your email, what you're going to get is first off this PowerPoint, so you can remember and see the basic steps. But the more important one I wanted to give everyone is free access to it's a 1-hour training. It's entitled "How to Make Money While You Sleep with Automated Email Marketing." Now, I gave you the real high overview right now, but this is going to talk about every step of every email and what to include in them. And like I said, it's like a 1-hour training, and you'll also get information on upcoming trainings and free tidbits because you will be on the email list then. Which, by the way, I practice what I preach. So if you think it's spam, you just click the unsubscribe button, and I'm happy for you to do that. You'll never get emailed from again.
Sure.
But you'll get that instantly by going to that website and profit911.biz/DJN and get a lot more than I can share with you on this webcast here.
And I just put that link in the description below. So when we're switching between shows tonight, you guys can click refresh, and then you can click that and open up another window. That way you'll remember to check it out a little bit later.
Very cool.
But yeah, I think just we should make a follow-up night, and I really think we should dig into that plan idea. I think that would be a great one. We really kind of went into the second and third phase a little bit more, but I think the plan idea and some of the components that are involved with that could be a great topic. I think that we should dig into.
Yeah, we can lay out a basic plan, and if anyone's going to the Mobile Beat convention, I'll be speaking there. And the topic I have there, which probably isn't a great headline, but it's unpopular marketing techniques that work. So I gave you one of them, and that's that sometimes ugly works better than attractive. I have several things I'm going to share and real-life examples at that one. So if you happen to be at Mobile Beat Vegas, check out the seminar. I think it'll be eye-opening for a lot of people.
That sounds great. Yeah, sometimes the titles just don't catch our fancy. It's like
well, no one likes unpopular, right?
Exactly.
But it's what I'm teaching. I practice honesty, by the way. There's not a lot of hype behind what I do. So what you see is what you get. And I try and give you results more than excitement.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Justin, thank you very much for your time tonight. We've had some good stuff. Again, gang, the link is in the description. If you want to reach out, you can actually email Justin at justinmiller@discjockeynews.com. We've got it set up so he gets that email, or you can go to the website and he's got contact information there. Or you can see us all at Mobile Beat Las Vegas in, just a little bit over a month.
It's coming up quick. It's going to be fun.
It is. It's always a good time to get to see friends and just to catch up a little bit in a face-to-face manner more than this.
And if nothing else, see Vegas.
Yeah, I don't see Vegas. I see airport.
You've
hotel.
Been there enough.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, exactly. So and it's
I.
like, we don't need to go see the cool. I'd rather go see the friends. So good stuff, Justin. I thank you much for your time, and we will see what we can schedule a second time or another time to have you jump on and be with us sometime to talk about that plan idea.
Let's do it. And if anyone emails me questions, we'll tweak that presentation exactly to what part you want to see.
Perfect.
So rather than me guessing, I'd rather give you what you want.
That sounds awesome. Awesome. Well, the next guy's going to be jumping in here in just a minute, gang. But Justin, one more time, thank you much for joining us.
Thank you.